The game has officially changed. American bases are no longer a shield. They've officially become a security liability and a warehouse of targets. Let's be real. Donald Trump just hit the ultimate wall of frustration. The tectonic million-man turnout for the funeral of Sayyid Ali Khamenei completely shattered his entire reality. Watching those endless oceans of people didn't just provoke him, it broke him. He realized in a flash of absolute panic that he has been completely blinded and misled by his own intelligence reports. The fake narrative he's been selling is dead. He can no longer brainwash the American public, especially while the deep state and elite US institutions are locked in a vicious internal war right against him. The illusion of the June 17 ceasefire has officially shattered. Standing on the sideline of the NATO summit in Ankara, a visibly rattled Donald Trump just pulled the plug on the truce, declaring it's completely over, after a brutal overnight exchange of fire in the Strait of Hormuz. Listen to the sheer panic in the rhetoric. Instead of acting like a global leader, Trump stood next to Mark Rutte and unleashed a torrent of playground insults, calling Iranian leaders cuckoo, sick, and scum. He openly admitted that Tehran has completely outmaneuvered him, agreeing to everything in private only to laugh at his threats in public. But here is the real crisis that Washington is trying to hide. Trump is trapped in an absolute dead end, and he is desperately trying to drag a hesitant NATO into his personal private war with Iran. He explicitly lashed out at his own allies, whining to the press that he is not happy with NATO because they refuse to back his military campaign, threatening another massive wave of strikes tonight, while standing completely isolated on the global stage. Think about the hypocrisy. Imagine flexing to the world that you have the most powerful military in human history, but then you immediately show up at your friends' doorsteps begging or straight up blackmailing them just to help you police a narrow strip of water in the Middle East. It's pure logistic and psychological panic. He went on a diplomatic rampage at the NATO summit, looking visibly shaking in the photo ops and threatening to cut off trade with Spain. Does that sound like a stable global leader bringing peace? Or just a desperate businessman holding a grudge and leading an alliance with the whip of blackmail? But Europe is not buying the drama. Behind closed doors, their vibe is literally not our war, not our problem. They are terrified of the economic fallout from a war they want absolutely no part of. And that's exactly when Turkey's Erdogan steps in. He pulls off a nasty maneuver. First, he publicly thanks Trump for stopping wars, pure strategic flattery. Then he exploits America's weakness by announcing Turkey's commitment to clean up the Strait of Hormuz and clear the mines. Just like that, the rug is pulled. Trump's grand plan to rally NATO turns into direct Turkish influence, completely dodging a massive fight with Tehran and leaving Washington screaming into the bottomless canyon. How can a system built purely on raw force ignore the sheer willpower of millions of people enforcing a rock-solid equation of deterrence? The literal phrase on the ground from Iran is, "We will not sit quietly." And there's a brutal, decisive warning to any country in the region hosting US military bases. The game has officially changed. American bases are no longer a shield. They've officially become a security liability and a warehouse of targets. Let's be real. The entire bullying campaign has absolutely nothing to do with nuclear fear. It's a dirty geopolitical hustle for regional dominance and raw resources. First, it's about oil and gas. The West is starving to hijack Iran's massive natural resources and force them back into the Western market on cheap, imperial terms. Second, they want to choke off Iran's financial and logistical lifeline to the resistance movements in Palestine and Lebanon. And finally, the ultimate goal: to force Tehran to sign humiliation pacts normalize with Israel, and swallow a US-controlled security system that kills any voice that dares to say no to Western hegemony. In this chaotic, multi-layered world, Lebanon has become the absolute central hub of the entire global poker game. The Trump administration doesn't see Lebanon as a sovereign country. They see it as a bargaining chip in a transaction. Washington wants to slice up the chessboard to take the pressure off Netanyahu's collapsing government back home. They are staring at Lebanon's fragile institutions, watching the tactical strain on the Lebanese army under Joseph Aoun, hoping to dictate terms on the ground that secure Israel's northern borders. But since when does the geography of resistance care about corporate balance sheet? Any attempt to force a deal will smash directly into an asymmetric warfare readiness. Neither a hesitant NATO nor US forces, who are heavily restricted by their own Monroe Doctrine from getting dragged into ground wars, have the stomach to handle the consequences. The Pentagon loves to sell this lie, called comfortable hunting. The fantasy that you can run cheap, low-cost military operations from a distance. But that illusion completely falls apart when you face the brutal reality of our dangerously interconnected global economy. Do the geniuses wargaming this realize that shutting down the Strait of Hormuz just for a single month would absolutely obliterate Japanese industry, paralyze China's supply chains, and completely freeze the gas flowing to Europe? China will not sit by and watch its energy lifeline get choked out. On the other hand, Russia is already moving in the background, locking in a tight alliance with Tehran while NATO is distracted in Ukraine. Meanwhile, Asian giants like India and Pakistan are aggressively looking out for themselves, heading straight for a collision course with US demands. Weapons, tariffs, and trade wars mean absolutely zero when global shipping routes lock up and the world bond markets and financial indexes collapse. Calling this operation comfortable isn't strategy. It's just pure, unfiltered political propaganda to cover up a massive failure. Trump's aggressive posture isn't strength. It's an automated glitch showing he cannot control the oceans alone. It's the bitter crying over the ruins of an Atlantic alliance that refuses to die, just for a Washington election cycle. This is why Trump said what he said today in Turkey. He wants to drag the NATO into the war. He wants to control the Strait of Hormuz so he can control Asian market and Asian politics, and to give Netanyahu the safety net he desperately needs to dodge his disastrous legal and political situation. So tell me now, is the US actually losing its grip on global control, or is this just the chaotic setup for a massive reset? Drop your thoughts below, hit that follow button, and let's discuss this in the comments.